Well, it's exciting to be back on stage. Thanks for coming to our show. It's like the end of the day, right? Who's exhausted? Nobody? All right, how's it been so far? Pretty entertaining? Educational? Valuable? Any good feedback for us? Yeah, double thumbs up. Okay, thank you. A lot of work has gone into Accelerate this year, and just a huge shout out to the Pattern team and all of the brand partners who've come together to just open up and share. And that's what we're gonna do over the next 45 minutes is, from a marketing standpoint, a brand standpoint, open up and share everything that we can. And then if we have some time at the end, we'll have a Q&A, or maybe it's a Q&Q. We could ask you some questions because I know a few of you are really good marketing leaders. So that's what we're gonna do. Sound good? Sound good? All right, cool. Great, thank you, let's do it. All right, so I want to introduce the panel, or better yet, let's have each of you introduce yourselves. And as you introduce yourself, maybe touch on like who you are, what company you work for, maybe even what companies or brands you've worked for in the past, what your role is. And then if each of you could take an opportunity to answer the question, what is brand? Sound good?
Yeah.
Sure. Catherine, lead us out.
Yeah, so my name is Catherine Bolo. I am currently the Chief Marketing Officer at Pickler Inc., which consists of 3 different businesses. The primary business is the Pickler, which is an indoor pickleball facility. It's a membership-based kind of model like F45 and Orange Theory for indoor pickleball. And we have about 14 locations open now and have sold 300. So in about a month, we're opening 2 a month for the next 2 years. Yeah. Yeah, so the demand for pickleball is there, and we're capitalizing on that. We also own a very typical e-commerce shop that resells pickleball products, both within our pro shops and then online to pickleball players, very kind of standard e-commerce store. And then deep in my heart, the one I love the most actually is we have a apparel brand called Stack Athletics that is a really disruptive, irreverent pickleball apparel brand in the space. And so I, like Bo mentioned, talk about where I came from. I spent 7 years at Skullcandy, so some consumer electronics work, also a very disruptive, irreverent brand.
Yeah, Skullcandy.
Yeah, we worked together at Skullcandy. So I spent a few years also in the winter sports equipment world at Solomon and Atomic, and then did a 2-year stint at a B2B company in public safety. And no offense to B2B, but I'm happy to be back in front of a consumer, actually. So pickleball is really where I am now, and really kind of loving the energy with pickleball. And as we all start to talk about brand and what brand is, like I always say I'm a brand person through and through. Like, don't try to sway where I go in my career, because I want to be really deep in love with the brand and what the brand does. And to me, brand is really building the perspective for the end user around what, you know, the identity is, and everything from logo to design to copy to marketing campaigns, and how that perspective ends up, engaging with the consumer and giving that consumer an experience, or end user, I guess, but giving that person an end experience, really. And I think of brand as the hub of all marketing, with the spokes kind of coming out to lead channel. But I deeply love brand, so I'm really excited to be here. So.
Awesome. I think we're gonna get along.
Yeah.
I like that answer a lot. I always like to get to know the audience a little bit. Who has played pickleball? Like, raise your hand. All right, almost everybody. Fantastic. Who's been to a Pickler location?
Oh.
Okay.
More to come.
All right. There's a few.
Yeah.
Who's heard of Pickler? Okay, good.
Okay.
There's some awareness out there, some unaided awareness.
Yeah. There you go.
Fantastic. Jonathan.
Yeah, sure. I'm Jonathan Cantor. I'm the CMO of Gosney, and we've been on a journey for the last few years. Our company was founded in the UK around 2011, and our background is making commercial pizza ovens, basically for the best restaurants in the UK. In 2016, we launched a product called the Rock Box, and it was the first stone floor portable pizza oven. I'm gonna ask a question. Does anyone own a pizza oven here? Let's go.
A few.
So we basically started that category. We were a D2C company for 5 or 6 years after that. And in 2021, our founder kind of realized that the company had all this momentum and he needed to expand outside of the UK. And we built a team in the US. And since then, we've expanded to a pretty large wholesale footprint. So we're now in Home Depots and the Ace Hardwares of the world and the best specialty retailers globally. The big territories we sell in are now global brands, so Australia, UK, Germany, Canada, obviously the US. And yeah, just a really fun category. In terms of brand, how I think about it is I try to simplify it as much as possible because, Bo, I love how you say everyone has a different perspective on what brand is. And for me, it's just the way people relate to a product or service or person, and the way they would describe it to a friend. So if you say, hey, what do you think of Delta? What do you think of Coca-Cola? What do you think of Bo? They would probably say something. To me, that's your brand.
Oh, they would say something, for sure.
That's amazing.
Cool. Jonathan, that's I let the heckling begin. Okay, real quick before we go on. So there's a few pizza ovens. Who has a Gosney? Anybody else? I have one. Yeah, all right. So, I mean, half the hands that went up before
We might have to do a promo code for a few more hands after this.
Yeah, for sure. Who wants a promo code for a Gosney? All right.
There we go. Okay.
There's the hands. Good. Very good. Who was here last year and saw me speak on any of the things? Anybody? And anybody notice a difference around here from last year to this year? Oh, really? All right. So it's a little shorter. I'm going to tell a story.
You do it.
I'm going to tell a story. Jonathan made me promise, and I'm still going to do it. So I'm a huge Gosney fan. I had Gen 1. I love my Gosney oven. It's like in my backyard, right outside the window, and it's beautiful, and it's well designed, and it works perfectly. And then we went to Egypt last summer, and we were gone for a few weeks. Came back, the pipes had ran dry. There was no gas in the oven, and so I was lighting it, and lighting it. And I used to have really long, 17-inch long curly hair. And so I'm standing there, and I'm like, click, 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 and nothing's happening. And so I let it run for a little bit, let the pipes, fill, and I looked in, and I clicked one more time. And when it clicked, a fireball came out of my Gosney pizza oven, and it singed the right side of my hair, and it was gone. It was like, anybody remember the Pepsi commercial in '84 with Michael Jackson? Right, that's it. And I was just like, shit! And I'm trying to get it out, and it stank up the whole yard. And then I went back, and I put it out, and I looked horrible. I shaved my head. I started over. But I went back out, and I still cooked my meal in my Gosney oven. And I'm probably responsible for like selling about 20 ovens because I love it so much. And even after my user error, that's just our Sunday ritual, is out with the Gosney fixing DIY pizzas. Yeah. So shout out to Gosney. Thank you for making a great product.
Well, I was just going to say that I'm going to rescind that $25 I paid you on Venmo, not to tell that story, but you redeemed yourself, so we're good.
I love it, man. Huge brand ambassador here. Awesome. So thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Aaron.
I don't know how I can top that. I feel like the panel should just be over after that story. My stories aren't as exciting, but I'm Erin Logan. I have built my career building consumer-facing brands and reinventing brands at different life stages. So I grew up at Procter & Gamble. I worked on Tide when they launched Tide Pods, did a stint in hair color, so I have a little bit of hair experience. And then I moved over to Amazon, worked on a bunch of different things there, launched the Just Walk Out technology, which is the cashierless technology. There's one in the Salt Lake Airport now, which I'm very excited about. So if you're traveling out, go into it. It's really cool. I geek out every time and just loiter in that store. And they're like, do you want anything? I'm like, I'm just watching what I built. And they're like, okay, like, have a safe flight. And then moved over to Chewy. I know that Chewy did a presentation, I think, yesterday. We're a beloved brand, excellent on customer service. And then now I'm at Merkle. Merkle's probably the least branded brand that I have worked on, but it actually is the customer experience agency for thousands of famous brands, from home improvement to fashion to grocery to consumer products. And Merkle's all about powering the experience economy, which is really just what are the touch points that you experience a brand as a customer. And I work on retail and CPG strategy. And so the common thread across all this is really about innovation, customer-facing brands, and building that to delight consumers based off of whatever they want. But I'm pretty flexible on brand experiences. So what is a brand? From my P&G training, I should be saying that it is a combination of P&L management or business management, marketing, and product. And that P&G actually invented brand management, like the term, back in, I think, like 1931. They like first came up with it. And so I prepared, I looked it up because I was like, why do I know this like definition in my head so well? And it's like, oh, they drilled it into you as a like 22-year-old when you first show up at P&G of what is brand. But really how I think about it is it's like connecting human experiences. A brand makes you feel, and I think that feeling is a really important aspect in today's days of performance marketing and like optimization, all of which are really important, but that feeling is the thing that brings human element into what the product and experience or service is.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Erin. And I think that the way that I would define brand is really a culmination of what the three of you have said, and that brand is it's a feeling, right? Or it's a belief. It's a belief in a company and the way that it connects with the consumer. And so what is that intangible emotional connection between the company and the consumer, and why does that consumer believe, or why does that human believe in this company or this product that they're offering? And that belief is the brand. And so many different touch points, right? There's so many different touch points between the human and the brand, and each of those needs to be cohesive so that that brand is showing up in the world in the way that it needs to for that person. And I think each of the ways that you talked about brand, the common like theme through it is connection, right? And connecting these inanimate objects or these companies with these humans, these live people. And so I want to talk a little bit about, the theme of the conference or of Accelerate is, connect, innovate, and accelerate. And how do we do that for these inanimate objects, for these brands, for these companies? And a big part of that is creating moments of connection. So if you would, talk to us a little bit, and Erin, let's start with you, and then we'll work backwards. Talk to us a little bit about these moments of connection. How do you create those moments? And especially, how do you create those in an authentic way for your brand?
So what's really interesting to me is that 80% of brands think that they're delivering great experiences, but only 8% of consumers agree. And for me, that comes down to not connecting, to your point, with the consumer of what they want. And this is where things like the full go-to-market strategy come into play. Like, do you have the right equity if you're a brand? Have you differentiated your equity from the competition? Do you really feel something when you think about the very highest levels? But then further down the funnel, as you think about performance marketing, are you having loyalty programs? About 30% of customers, maybe a little bit higher, will leave a brand if they have one bad experience. That's where loyalty, personalization, making sure that the product and the message is tailored the right way to your consumer set and reaching them where they are. Marketing to, this is going to come back to haunt me, I know it, to Gen Z versus to boomers. We were talking about Gen Z earlier, and it's a weak spot in my marketing toolkit, so I'll just say it right now so I can anticipate the question. But marketing to Gen Z versus boomers is very different of how they like to receive information. There's preferences, there's individual preferences where you live, and so all of this is where tools like personalization can come into play and loyalty.
Yep.
Love that. Can you hand me your notes when we're done?
We're on question 3, and I didn't get to
Got
these.
the cheat code.
I didn't get to these points, so you can hit some of these.
Yeah, okay, done.
Yeah. Do you want one? No. Okay. I've got a McKinsey stat here. It's ready, just in case.
Way to flex on us.
Say what?
Way to flex on us.
I know.
You asked if I was bringing notes, and I said yes. I'll read the McKinsey stat to buy you some time. So 40% of increase in revenue is per McKinsey, is realized by companies that excel in personalization compared to those who do not.
Love it.
Boom.
All right, God.
Yeah, cool. I'll talk about the way we think about connection at Gosney. And, I think in today's world, you have to think really deliberately about kind of on a very fundamental level, the two sides of kind of your marketing stack, right? Driving conversion and paid media and everything digital, and building brand. And one of the ways we thought about that is kind of getting really sharp with the tip of the spear in that, and the way we connect with our consumer in person. So I just flew in from LA this morning, and at Ghazni, we work with some of the best chefs in the world. And we have an event series called Proof. And Proof is a 7-stop tour. It goes New York, London, LA, Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, Australia, Berlin, San Francisco. And we have 2 nights of it. The first night is to our community of chefs and influencers and sometimes media. And the second night of that is actually to our consumer that we sell tickets to. So we invite our consumer, and the question here is, like, of course you could put out an ad on Meta and you could do an ad on Google, but is that a true connection to the brand? And how do we amplify that? Moreover, we're sold in a lot of retail stores and digitally, but we don't own a top-to-bottom brand experience. So Proof was this idea of how do we take the consumer into our world, and they walk into a venue. The concept behind Proof is combining legendary chefs with unforgettable locations around the world for a sit-down live fire dinner, and they walk into this space and they have a moment. It's 50, 60 people. They meet everyone there. They meet everyone on the Ghazni team. They try our products. They learn how to make pizza from one of the best chefs in the world. They're served a dinner from one of the best chefs in the world. They talk about the ingredients and everything else. So this idea of analog and the way we think about our products is this kind of combination of ancient and modern, ancient cooking with fire and modern, beautiful design and UI and everything else. And this is an analog space that has worked really, really well for us. And that excites me because we're constantly thinking about how to differentiate and the idea of building community and the legit, I'm getting Instagram DMs all day today from people that were at this thing. And that's like a true connection to people, you know?
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Buy an oven, maybe you could come.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have to own an oven in order to be invited to Proof?
You just subscribe to our email list and pay attention to our socials.
I'd love to be there.
Yeah.
Like
I'd
when
love
you do
to
the
have
San
you.
Francisco one, I'd love to be there.
Yeah, love to
Anybody
have
else want to go to Proof? All right, let's do it. You can be my +1.
They're amazing. I remember we have another friend that works at Ghazni, and I think you had one up at Snowbird or somewhere else.
Sundance.
Sundance,
Yeah.
and I was like, I want to go to this, and he was like, good luck. They sell out in like 1 minute, and it was something like that where I was like, damn, I'd love to go to that because it does feel like such an amazing
Can I
experience.
make one more comment on that?
Yes.
Like kind of to your point, Catherine. Like my CFO comes and is like, Jonathan, what the hell are you doing bringing 50 people to a mountaintop? It's like a wedding. We're paying $200 for a person to come and experience it. I'm constantly challenged with that return on the investment.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, from a brand impact perspective, and the reviews, we get reviews of people like borderline in tears, especially coming out of COVID when we started this thing, and people said it was one of the best nights of their life. So it's special.
I actually think of that as like a moment of connection. That's a really great, like you hosted people on a mountain, you're all eating pizza together and bringing people together around a brand. It's like a great, I love that example.
And as marketers, I think we're like our own worst enemy when we're just thinking about scale and acquisition cost and repeat purchase rate, right? And it's like, it's really nice talking to people.
Okay, so how do you mark that though, right? Because it's a huge investment to hold these events, and you're $200 a head or whatever. Like, how do you gauge your ROI on that? Like, what are the actual tangible metrics of success?
Yeah, really good question. So at the high level, the easiest thing to point to is impressions. And the reason why it's a multi-night event, so again, the first night is a community event. We had, in LA specifically, just to talk about pizza, there's something real, pizza's having a moment. Has anyone seen Chef's Table on Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
We need more people eating pizza here.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to convince you that pizza's having a moment here, but
It is.
in LA alone, I worked in action sports in the early 2000s, and Shaun White was winning his first Olympic gold medal, and all these upstart brands were coming into the market, and it was a really, really special time. And something similar is happening with pizza. The first night in LA, we had 50 pizza makers come to our Airbnb, and everyone brought their own toppings and exchanged ingredients and made food, and it was really special. And a lot of organic content went out from that. These are like, we don't call them micro-influencers, but that's probably what you would call them in the community. Then the second night, we're focused on impressions because we have media and more renowned chefs and everything. And then the third night being consumer, part of it is, we're looking at, we know everyone on the guest list. So we're really inspired by hospitality. Again, we work with incredible chefs and restaurants. And we know everyone that sits down at that table. So we know their LTV. We know what we paid to acquire them. We know what products they own and whatnot. We are tracking them as they go through the journey.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Cool.
Yeah, and from a pickleball perspective, which is, it's really nice to kind of go down the line because like our moments of connection or connection really happen inside of our clubs. And that's the most important piece is once you get someone in the door, which you can put as many ads out on Meta as you want and spend a whole bunch of money, but once you get them in the door, how do you create these moments of connection with them and make them want to stay and buy a membership? So we do a 30-day trial membership, and then ultimately we want them to convert and be a full-time member, right? And so it's really important within those 30 days to create this experience where they want to keep playing and they want to end up buying that membership, because pickleball specifically, it's not your first gym membership usually. You know, there are the outliers, but usually you have another gym membership, and it's a quote-unquote nice to have in terms of membership. And so we have to create these moments of connection with them while they're inside one of our clubs so that they want to add on that membership to their life. And that's everything from our tournaments and events and programming to pro instructors and coming to play with them, to bringing a friend in and our refer a friend program so that they always have someone to play with, they have something to do inside of our club, because pickleball isn't one of those sports that you can do alone, honestly. I mean, you can show up to Fairmont and you can hit the ball around, but you really want to play with your friend or your family member or someone who plays with you, your partner that plays as well as you do. And so creating that connection at the moment they step into one of our facilities is super, super important, because we'll lose them if we don't create it in that 30 days. So we have a very limited timeline to kind of really get them hooked into pickleball and realize that they need to come indoors, right? Because pickleball is a free sport. And so paying for it creates a little bit of a barrier, right? And so we do a lot of different things, but our programming is obviously the most important piece to our business, and in making sure that that is the exact same programming at every single facility. And that takes a lot of work from the marketing team, actually, because we have to market that programming the exact same way at every single facility, and we have to roll it out to the clubs, and then they have to run it the same way, so that if you're playing in Seattle and you're playing in San Francisco and you're playing in Salt Lake, you're having the same experience within the brand and connecting to pickleball that way. So for us, it's really a boots on the ground moment of connection. We have to get them when they're in the club and make them convinced that they want to play pickleball inside, which is not as easy as you think. But once you're inside, you're a little bit hooked. And luckily, pickleball is so energetic right now and buzzy that people are, like you guys, are very into it.
I think there's something that is happening in both of these industries or categories, right? Where it's like DIY pizza, pickleball. Like one of the reasons that we invited you on the panel is because those industries are both having a huge moment right now.
Absolutely.
And so when I think about pizza and the experience that you're creating there, I think about pickleball. Is there anything within pickleball that you're doing to create a sense of competition? Mm-hmm. Right? Because I know for me, when I become competitive with something and I'm training for something or whatever, it's like I'm all in.
Yeah.
Like all in.
Yeah.
How do you create that so that it is worth it to pay and it is worth it to go to this place?
Totally. Yeah, it's really, I'll drop some quick pickleball stats so people can kind of hear them, but that's a really nice kind of entryway into this, because our tagline is where pros are made, right? So we know that if you're playing outdoors, you're hitting the ball around on Saturday, you're just kind of casually playing. We need to really market to people that are playing a little bit more than that and want to kind of turn the dial up on their game. There are 40 million pickleball players in the US. There's more than golf and tennis combined now. The fastest growing market is between 18 and 25, so it is not your grandmother's sport anymore. But there's not a lot of extra income at that market right now. And so we are constantly trying to figure out how to get to Gen Z and younger and get them to come inside and play. And one of those is we want them to really build their skills within our club. So what's nice about playing indoors is that there's no weather. You can always reserve a court, so you're not fighting for that. We have technology, including AI technology, that tracks you and helps you improve your game, ball machines. So we want you to come into our club and really level up. And that's the experience that we're giving to people, to be all in, like you said, right? Rather than just kind of hitting the ball around Saturday. And we have to create that experience or connection as a brand that we are leading that. So if you come indoors, what you're trying to do is really elevate your game rather than if you're just playing outdoors. So that kind of moment there to become pro, quote unquote, or to train like a pro, that has to happen inside, and we think we're giving that experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit along the lines that we saw 20 years ago with GoPro, right? Where it's like, yeah, sure, you're
Yes.
going to go skiing with your kids, but when you're ready to, like, if you're ever going to share
Yeah.
anything, like, you better have a GoPro because that is going to put you on the map, right?
Totally. And if you want to be, what we call, there's a rating in pickleball called duper. If you want to be a 3.0 or 3.5 or 4.0, it goes all the way up to 6. You really need to come indoors, and that's how we're really marketing it. We're not marketing to the people that play on once a month on Saturdays, right? We know that that's just not going to happen, but we really market it in a place where if you come into one of our clubs, you're engaged with our brand, we're giving you the technology and the programming and the opportunity to really level up your game.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so I'm going to do something a little unexpected.
Okay.
I'm going to pause. So we're halfway through our time together, and I just want to pause. And do you have any questions? Like, do you have any questions that are itchy right now that you want to ask?
Nada. All right.
Okay, right here.
We're bringing a mic around, looks like.
All right, cool.
Thank you for being here. We are starting to revamp our D2C website. We're a service company selling humidifiers, dehumidifiers, so definitely not sexy as pickleball equipment or pizzas. Any tips or anything, that you could maybe help us while we're on this journey?
Yeah.
Good question.
Go for it. I think you're probably the closest to it.
Anything? What's the specific problem you're solving for? Just selling stuff?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, the website that we currently have is pretty old. Trying to, the ultimate goal is increase sales.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a broad question. I think what I would say is, I think where we often fall down as marketers is becoming too ambitious and trying too many things. And I think especially early on in D2C, it's really important that you find your early kind of traction channels that drive traffic and conversion. So that might be paid media, it might be influencers, it might be building community, it might be PR. But go really, really deep and be sure that you're measuring the right way, and don't spread yourself too thin.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to that, like when I was at Skull Candy, and actually the person that runs digital for Jonathan now was at Skull Candy at the same time, and we had this constant battle with the e-com team around like brand versus commerce and how to like navigate that, right? Because from a brand person, it's like we have these incredible like athletes and musicians and content and beautiful products, and like that should be number one on the site. And those guys are like, no, we're meant to sell products, and we need this channel to be really profitable. And so I think there's always that push and pull, but I'd say similar to what Jonathan said, right, is like if your number one goal is to convert, like that needs to be what's happening on the front page. And we just went through that at Pickler. Actually, we had a site that we just relaunched it about a month ago, but we had a site that was doing us no justice prior to that, where you had to click about 7 times to even buy a membership. And it was like, oh my gosh, guys, like we're gonna lose them, And so our ultimate goal, we did the same thing, and we said, what do we wanna do here? Well, we wanna convert. We have to convert immediately. And we built the site that way for complete conversion. And there's some brand stuff, and there's some I'm new to pickleball, and we have all of those things that you need, but ultimately it was a drop-down menu. It was choose a club, you go in, you buy a membership, and that was what was most important to us. And it's a hard push and pull with marketing and commerce, but if you're saying it's to sell, then ultimately I think that's the path in.
I love that we're talking about data. The other part, I would go back, I would go to the customer and what's the insight around your humidifiers and products that you're selling. Are you selling in areas of low humidity, like Utah? What is the insight of what differentiates your humidifier? Go back and really deeply understand the customer. Your performance marketing output metrics can follow that through on the conversion funnel, but I think we've almost, as an industry, followed this off a cliff too much, and going back to what's the so what behind the customer and the insight there. And then I'd also push a little bit on the why are you only DTC, and it's a really tough decision around when to expand. I think I heard in another panel earlier about you'll get more eyeballs on something like Amazon or through other marketplaces, but that loses a bit of control. And so really thinking through like your customer insight, validating with data of how you're performing today, are you delivering on that product market fit, and then why not scale? Like home improvement could be a great channel to expand into. It gives you additional reach, additional distribution, like the traditional like 4 Ps of like where to play and if you're gonna have the right product in the right place at the right time. And I think DTC eventually hits a ceiling and you start to face some of these tough challenges. So just thinking through that in advance would be my other advice.
Well said.
And I'll add one thing that especially the Pickler and Gosney are doing really well. There's oftentimes this tug of war between performance marketing or sales marketing and brand marketing, right? And it's like build a brand, so you're spending all this money on building the brand and whatever that means. But one solve that solves for both of those is really good design.
Yeah.
When you have a craveable product, a product that people want, then it's going to make marketing, performance marketing and brand marketing so much easier because they are coming to that, buying the product, enjoying it, displaying it in their home or whatever, the environment that it lives in, and then they're advocating for the brand, for that product because it's designed well, because it's craveable. So you think about pizza ovens. I had wanted a pizza oven for a couple of years. Like I could see that I had been over to friends' houses. They had, the uni or whatever, and there was nothing that was worthy of the curation of my home until Gosney launched, and that's when I finally went for it. I know the Pickler hired one of my past designers, Augie, right, who's an amazing industrial designer, to come in and create an entire suite of products for the Pickler that are better than any other product out there from a design standpoint. And so prioritizing the design of your diffusers or your whatever it is, whatever the product is going to make the performance marketing and the brand marketing so much easier simply because people want the product, simply because your packaging, your product, your whatever is craveable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know we maybe, this is a nice moment maybe to go to brand versus product, but I think that your brand and, it's a really interesting place where it's like, does the product lift the brand or does the brand lift the product? And it depends what company you're at. And I completely agree that your product has to be defined, has to be something people really want to be a part of. And there are times where brand has to lift that to get them there, right? Like at Skullcandy, when we were in consumer electronics, consumer electronics are a super, super commoditized market. It's a race to the bottom in a lot of ways and price points. And if you don't have brand behind it and a very strong brand, and by brand I also mean like the marketing campaigns and everything to help lift, to differentiate that product there. And although the product is really well designed, it's things like color, it's things like marketing campaigns, it's even the ads that you're building to help support that product are super valuable, that they all tie back together into that brand. We deal with that at Pickler too, where there are competitors in the pickleball space and indoor pickleball franchising space, and they have no brand. I'm not kidding. It's like, it just makes you be like, ugh. But we have decided, even though they have no brand, we're still competing with them, but we need to build a brand not for them, but for who our audience wants. And we have matte black walls, and we have beautiful wood finishings, and we have these places where people want to hang out. So pickleball is our product, but the brand inside of a Pickler is what makes people want to stay. And I think that's really important too, that they both kind of lift one another.
So it's back to that feeling, right? The brand
exactly.
is that you're creating a feeling when they walk in that's different than the free, park
Yep.
or a backyard.
Yeah.
They're in a space now. They have a feeling of like, yes, this is it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Any other questions before we roll?
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Slightly risky, but I feel like these moments of connection, it's sort of an art form, getting them right. And I'm wondering if you can share an example of a moment of connection that maybe didn't go the way that you had planned it to, and what did you learn from that?
Love it. Thanks. So we learn from our failures.
It's a really good question.
I have a marketing one that didn't go well. Not at Pickler, actually. We're pretty new at Pickler, and so sometimes I'll go back to other brands that I've worked at. At Skullcandy, actually, we did a campaign for a headphone that was meant to be noise canceling, and so we created this whole marketing campaign that really was like calm and black. The photography was black and white, but the headphones were in color, and it was meant to kind of make the headphones pop a little bit. And it was our first noise canceling product, I think, at the time. And so we felt like, as a brand, although we were about color and energy and all this stuff, it's like, well, our customer wants something where they're canceling the noise out. Well, we swung way too far to the left in terms of being quiet with our marketing on a brand that was very loud, actually. And it was a huge mistake. Actually, it was a huge mistake at retail. It was a huge mistake online. The content we created on it just felt sort of like Sony or like another brand. It felt like a brand that was like, oh, that's not us anymore. So we lost our identity through that for a little bit through that campaign. And of course, you can kind of come back from campaigns, I think, and fix that. But I would say it was a massive identity crisis. And actually, the company was going through a little bit of identity crisis, and there wasn't right leadership doing it. And so it shook everyone, honestly. But those are the moments that make you become better marketers and better leaders and figure out how to build your brand even stronger. And it happens, you know. Every one of us will experience something like that, for sure. So.
Thanks for being vulnerable.
I know. Well,
luckily
I didn't
Thanks for
concept
being
the
real.
campaign. I just helped roll it out at the time.
I just love this question so much that it's like, it is a really hard one to answer, especially on the spot. So my example's from P&G. I was working on the Iams brand, which is, it was $1 billion pet brand. I haven't looked at the stats recently, but dog food, cat food. And I was an assistant brand manager, and we wanted to pilot new innovation. And so the remit was P&G has pet products. At the time, they also owned Pringles. They said, why don't we put, based off the insight for connection, that pets love the sound whenever you like go into a bag and you dig something out. They're like, why don't we put pet treats into a Pringles can? And that way we can tap into that insight because we already have the technology of food and we have this Pringles can. Let's put them together. This will be an amazing product. Let's go do it. And so like I was responsible, it's called Iams Shakeables. And the tagline was, one shake is all it takes. You've probably never heard of this because it no longer exists because it was a calorie dense treat. So like my dog got a little fat because I fed it. He was like my test customer. The insight was right. The simplification of like leveraging technology was right, but the execution didn't make sense. Iams was, and probably still is, I hope, a better for you brand. It helped like tailor diets to different pet nutrition needs. There was like healthy or weight control. This is going way back. See if I remember it. Weight control. There was large breed, and treats was really just a play for us to get like additional placement on shelf and to round out the portfolio, but it wasn't a place that we had a right to win. So it didn't work. It was like delisted within a little bit of time, but I loved it because it was experimentation. It was a lot of fun to work on it at the time, but I think these, to your point, these failures are really like where you learn a lot. It's like, oh, you shouldn't just go after a distribution win. You shouldn't just like take two technologies and like mush them together with a Pringles and dog treat in a can. So
That's a great one.
Yeah.
There's a lot. We also tested, here, this is the last part. We also tested on the home shopping channel. And so this is why I'm not afraid to say this one publicly, because somewhere in like the internet, there's like Shakeables on the home shopping network with my mom calling in and like, yeah, it was amazing. It was like a really great like early marketing story. So
Fantastic.
be fearless.
Yeah.
That's good. I love it. And once you pop, you can't stop. And your dog couldn't stop.
No,
So,
it was one shake is all it takes. Maybe we can revitalize this brand. Maybe the trademark's still out there.
Yeah,
this is
perfect.
an amazing idea. Someone to take and run.
Thanks,
I'm not
Erin.
a lawyer. Check the theater.
There you go, folks. It's free. Take it. So as we kind of come to the end of our time together, one topic that is really important and can have such a huge effect on brand is influencer, right? So has anybody in the crowd, have you nailed influencer? Raise your hand if you just like, we crush it, we've got it, let me tell you the secret. Perfect.
Right?
Us too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. And I want to stage or kind of frame it in this way. So the way I look at influencer is you've got micro and macro, right? Influencers are kind of like rentals. You rent them for a bit. And then you've got creators. Who's heard of the creator economy? Right? Some of you, good. So you got creators who are partners, right? So they own 50% of the business, 51% of the business, and it's the creator's business or creator's brand that they're launching. And so there's a big difference between a rental and an owned, right? An influencer and a creator. So talk to us a little bit, if you would, share with us some positives that have worked and some negatives that maybe haven't worked, and how are you using influencer? What does that mean for you and your brand?
Sure. I guess I'll take it. We spent a lot of time thinking about, I joined Gosney 3 years ago, and we had a lot of friends of Gosney, meaning they would post something for us on Instagram and we would send them an oven. It worked really well for the brand, but there was this moment of how do we mature this program? And we took a hard look at the market and our competitors, and one of the things that we found is that this space is highly transactional. Well, even as you speak about it, like rent them, buy them, post, and and it was a serious turnoff to us. One of the advantages we have is people really want our products. You spoke about design. If anyone looks on our website and looks at our products, you can see the dome. It's unlike anything else out there in the market. It's a $2,000 pizza oven. We can't keep them in stock. And the idea we had was, how do we move away from this transactional element of this space? And how do we build a community around people that are passionate about pizza and our products? And we went on this journey and we said, look, there's kind of varying degrees of this community. Once again, there's the best chefs in the world that want to be a part of a community. There's up-and-coming pizza makers that want to be a part of a community. Like I said, there's this thing happening in LA. People show up at their Saturday's farmers market, and they could benefit from connection to people and sharing recipes. And then, of course, there's consumers who want to be a part of our community. So we did a lot of testing on what that looks like and how to have this interaction with each one of these cohorts. And the mission of the program was to provide so much value to these people that it felt irresponsible for them not to be a part of. I'll give you an example of that. In this middle tier, these up-and-coming pizza makers, many of them aspire to own restaurants. They start with our products and they, again, go to their Saturday's farmers market. And the idea of how we provide value is we bring world-renowned restaurateurs. One of them is a guy named Sean Feeney, who owns a few restaurants in New York, one of which is Lilia, which is voted best restaurant in the world, best chef in New York, all of the awards. And we brought Sean into a group of 100 people and had a 2-hour Q&A with people asking, how do I negotiate rents? And I think the idea of unlocking how you could provide value or build a community outside a transaction is a massive, massive unlock for a brand. And it really creates these long-term relationships that we've benefited from. We don't do any paid one-off relationships.
Okay. So as far like micro, macro, UGC, you're not paying for that.
We touch all of what you're talking about, but we don't say micro, macro internally. We talk about community and who should be a part of it and how we could benefit them.
And then you're drawing them into your community because you're creating a place of belonging that people want to be.
Yeah, the idea is like at first, like a Gmail invite. If anyone remembers getting a Gmail invite, a friend had to give it to you, and it was this coveted thing. And for the first 2 years, you had to be invited. We didn't want to be exclusive. That's not our vibe. But we really wanted to protect this community from the wrong people coming into it. So we made it invite only. We now have hundreds of people globally. We launch a product and we send out literally 400 seating kits, and a consumer of ours will get a sticker pack and a t-shirt. A guy like Chris Bianco, who's known as the best pizza chef in the country, we'll shoot a bunch of content with, and he'll get an oven from us, and it'll be a really meaningful moment for the brand. And we don't even ask them to post. But they do, and they create their own content and everything else.
Because they love it.
We ask nothing of them.
That's awesome.
That's super awesome.
Very good. Thank you.
And I think that's hard. I mean, the fact that your brand is in that place is hard for other brands to get to. That's like you use the word unlock, and that's super challenging because it is such a pay-to-play model right now. And you pay everyone from professional athletes all the way down to people with 1,000 to 5,000 followers, and it's challenging to figure out which one works and which one doesn't. And I think I said it when we were prepping for this thing, like, I actually haven't unlocked it at all, and I've worked with professional athletes at ski companies and Skull Candy, and then we used a big influencer brand there, and now we work with pro athletes at Pickler, and then we have local pros that play in the facilities, and those actually are the most important pieces to build that community and connection, or that local, I trust this guy because he plays here, he knows everyone here, he's a part of it, and we don't pay them either in that way, but it's challenging. I don't know the answer. And it's like not just challenging, it's evolving so fast. And it feels like the generation after me, in terms of like when they come up into marketing, they will know it so well. Like almost in my career, I'm a little bit too late to it to some degree because it's evolving so fast, it feels like right now. But I feel for everyone that's like, I don't think anyone's really completely figured it out. So.
Because it's not stagnant.
It's not.
It's moving, it's growing,
Yeah.
it's changing, it's
But
evolving.
marketing isn't stagnant, you
Yeah,
know? And
exactly.
that's the fun part about brands. And they're always evolving and changing, and the right ones stick around, and the other ones go away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate the insights. One more question. Anything else that you want to know, that you want to ask our experts? Okay, yeah, right here.
Yeah, whenever we get like an influencer video or UGC or whatever, and it'll go viral, we'll get a big boost in sales for a handful of days. We haven't figured out quite how to like leverage that and continue the momentum of that. Do you guys have any words on that?
Sure, I'll take it.
Yeah.
We had the same issue. And one of the things we had to go back to the drawing board on is we had a lot of brand moments that lived for 20 seconds on one channel and weren't amplified across the whole spectrum of consumer touch points. And what we had to do is basically sift through all the content and sift through all our messaging and come up with how do we amplify stuff long term? How do we think about the balance between organic and paid in certain situations? With UGC, oftentimes we are boosting that stuff, and the results are really, really great. So I would just think about how you spread it to email, how you spread it, all your retention channels, SMS. How does it live on your website? How is it a testimonial that drives conversion? How is it in your email campaigns? Like, integrated across the board. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. So
No, yeah, I think
lots of touch
integration is
points.
super important on that one, and using all your channels, because it is, the virality of that is on one channel. It's usually Instagram, right, or TikTok, and then taking it across all platforms. And from Stack, from our athletic company, we've had a few of those moments too, and it's immediately capitalizing on, it's like, okay, this athlete just won in this outfit, like how are we going to take it from them winning on court to our emails to drive on e-commerce to la da la da da, you know? And so, yeah, it's integration across all channels for sure.
I would also, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I'd also think about, depending on what product category you're in, you can use it as a source of inspiration for building out your innovation pipeline. Fashion does this really, really well within the fast fashion space. You're seeing trends on TikTok go into like a whole new line in under 2 weeks, and it's insane. And then with we didn't even touch on AI, but like you think about, like, could you create like an NFT, depending on what it is. Like, there's so many places that you could take it. And so I would, like, as far as the execution, 100% agree. But then I also think of, like, that's an amazing, like, insight. What do you do with that insight? How can you translate that into a longer-term roadmap? Is it just a one-off, or is it a trend? And, like, thinking really strategically about that space, like, both, like, go up the funnel and then also down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your questions and participation. We've got Jessica coming up in a few minutes on the main stage after this. So Aaron, Catherine, Jonathan, thank you so much. Really appreciate your insights and your energy.